So why am I making this channel? I enjoy making things and I want to try out a different way of sharing some of my creations. I've shared some of my previous projects in the past on Facebook or Instagram, etc., but this is usually just a photo or two. What I want to try and do is actually delve a bit more into the whole process and not just show off finished pieces of work. I'm hoping that there'll be other people out there that find this in some way interesting or might find some of the tips, tricks or processes useful. I also selfishly hope to get some tips and ideas and inspiration from other makers out there that are maybe doing similar things. So more specifically, why Lego Technic? So many moons ago I had an idea. It was a bit of a daft idea, but I had it anyway. The idea was to build large Lego pieces, many times the size of the real thing. I've always enjoyed building small scale models of bigger objects like model airplanes, etc. But for this I'll be changing it up and building something many times the size of the real thing. I've always enjoyed building Lego sets, and some of my favourite sets in the past have been Lego Technic ones. My first attempt at this was quite a few years back now and was using thick card. I was able to make the basic shapes, but there were a lot of drawbacks to this approach and I knew I had to come up with a better solution. Some of my other ideas included making up moulds to cast the pieces, or maybe even carving them out of polystyrene. My next real attempt came in the form of cutting the shapes out of wood, using a bandsaw and drilling out the holes, etc. However, there were some issues with this approach. The main one was that the required levels of accuracy were well beyond my woodworking abilities. And so, fast forward to about 8 months ago, I stumbled across an interesting machine online in the form of a K40 laser cutter. I'll go into more details about the machine itself in a later video, but it sparked an idea in my head that this could be the solution to the problems I had during my earlier attempt at making the Lego pieces out of wood. So I bit the bullet and bought the cutter, and after much tinkering, here we are, and I'm ready to show off some early progress. So here is a normal size 2x1 Lego Technic brick. And here it is alongside my first prototype. This was just before I got my laser cutter. I got a company to cut out the parts to see if it was even feasible to make. It cost far too much to repeat that, but it was worth it because it let me know that it could actually be done. I just had to go ahead and buy a laser cutter. It was a smaller scale than my final design, coming in at a scale of 3.75 to 1. Okay, so the big one at the back, this is the one that I'll be showing off the build for. It's a scale of 7.5 to 1, which works out nicely in terms of the thickness of the birch plywood that I'm using. And here are some dimensions. It is rather large. And here is how it was built. Okay, so I apologise in advance for some of the camera work. It is definitely going to be a work in progress. So the first piece that I'm going to build here is basically the top of the Lego brick and the studs that kind of go on top. So this is a technique I use in quite a lot of different models and things I make. So using the cocktail sticks just to keep things in alignment and hold them in place while the glue's drying. And there you go. There's some of that great camera work. Okay, so the stud that goes on top of the Lego brick is made up of 4 layers of plywood. So each layer is about 3mm thick, and the studs are 1 Lego unit high. So in this scale, a Lego unit is 12mm. So as you can tell, I'm kind of focusing more on the filming aspect rather than the building aspect. I'm using far too much glue and not taking my time, so definitely something to work on. Okay, so sped up the second one because it's basically the same as the first. It's just the other stud that goes on top. What you'll see in the background there as well, the wee squares, those are wee mini spacers. So the brick is basically made up of kind of like an outer skin and an inner skin, and those spacers just keep the two layers kind of separate, but you'll see that later. Just give them a light satin just so they're not too thick whenever the glue's added in as well. And that's part of the inner skin then that's added. It looks kind of strange now, but hopefully it'll make more sense when we start adding some of the other pieces to it. Now I just need to basically trim off the excess cocktail stick. So they'll get a rough trimming, and then I'll usually use a modelling knife just to trim them down flat. Okay, so I'm just giving this a light trim. Try not to stab itself. Again. Okay, so basically the hole in the Lego brick, or sometimes we refer to it as the tunnel, it's built basically using a very similar technique to the studs that go on top. Just a lot more layers to this because it has to go through the full thickness of the brick. So there's three of the rings have a wee bit that sticks out, and that's to kind of add the stud that goes in the bottom of the brick. You'll see that later on. So basically three of them have that, and the rest are just purely circular. Okay, so there's three in the middle and then 6 layers either side. Okay, so that's the hole or tunnel finished. Leave that to dry, and then I'll make the stud for the bottom. So you can see a couple of these just have holes for the cocktail sticks, and then some of them have the sort of gap where the tunnel attaches to it. And this piece I'm building now is kind of a bit of a jig that basically will hold the stud at the bottom kind of in place, just so that it kind of aligns correctly. This is going to be important whenever I start trying to add pieces, or stick pieces together and sort of build up small Lego sets. It's important that they're aligned correctly so that they'll kind of stick together. Okay, so this next part will really show kind of it all coming together. So here I'm adding the stud to the bottom of the tunnel. Okay, and then these are the outer side pieces. So basically I'm adding glue here to add a small spacer. This is just one sheet of thickness. So basically half what would be the thickness in the real Lego piece of the outer wall is kind of a different size than the inner half. So it kind of allows the Technic pin to kind of clasp onto the piece. Okay, so for this part I'm basically getting ready to put the inner skin in place. As you can see, the stud's not really lined up, so once I get the sort of put together, I can use the stud to line it up and make sure it dries in place. As you can see, I don't always put the glue in the right place. Usually I get there in the end. This is the jig I was talking about, and just a small hole cut out there just to make it easier to take out again after the glue sort of set. And I'll speed this up because it took a bit of fiddling about to get it to work as I wanted. But it's important that it kind of lines up correctly. I also kind of forgot to glue the tunnel in place before starting to clamp this down, so you'll see me kind of adding it in after the fact. So I definitely need to work on the building process for this. Whoops. That could have gone better. Okay, so that's the inner skin more or less done and the tunnel in place. So Now the final steps are to put the outer skin in place and the base as well. Let's speed this up. It's not that exciting. Again, 60% of the time I get the glue in the right place every time. I swear it's normally easier than this. Definitely must be the camera. Okay, so now it's just getting ready for the base, the final piece. Hmm?
What are you doing?
I'm filming this. Don't worry, I'm putting. This is where you hope and pray everything is lined up correctly. There we go. Ta-da!